Good morning and welcome to another episode of Sports Kings Radio. I'm Andy Flint. With me today we have Joe. Joe's one of our writers over at Sports Kings. He writes a little bit of hockey, a little bit of everything. I mean, he's here to chat. You can see the hat.
Buffalo.
That rhymed, and I wasn't even trying. And then again, if you tuned into our episode from yesterday, our football episode, we have Michael is back. Michael's a hockey guy, a writer over at our DC Sports Kings, our SKDC, and you can find each of these guys here and myself over at www.sports-kings.com. Right there's the logo. I did that pretty well this time. Usually I have trouble finding it. Michael, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, man. Coming to you live and in color from sunny Columbia, South Carolina.
And in a car.
In a car.
In a car, should we mention here?
Stationary though. I am not moving. I made sure to pull over for this one.
He's warmer than 10 degrees Fahrenheit there too.
He's in a van 33. Down by the river.
I am in a van down by the river.
Okay, so anyways, we're going to bring you a few various topics today. We're not really sticking to one sport or anything on this episode. We haven't really done this before. We've kind of stuck to one sports topic. We're going to kick it off here with some, breaking stuff. I mean, not breaking today, but breaking yesterday, and that is former Dallas Cowboys defensive tackle Josh Brent convicted of intoxication manslaughter for the accident stemming from December 2012. So it's been 2 years. Doesn't seem like it's been 2 years already. That accident, his teammate, Jerry Brown, lost his life in the accident. And it looks like Brent could face up to 20 years in prison is the ceiling. And we were talking about this before the show. It's kind of crazy. But his minimum, they're saying, is he could simply get probation. America, we salute you. And it looks like from what I was reading, what I was listening to, they seem to think based on the case and Texas law and all of that, because remember this is Texas, that he's more likely to get 2 to 4 years in prison. So we'll go to you first, Joe. How do you feel about this whole situation with Josh Brent, driving drunk, killing his teammate, and all of that?
I think it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to get convicted. If memory's serving me correctly, this was right after Javon Belcher and that whole incident over in Kansas City, 2011. So, that was certainly a bad year for, football. It was a bad month, really. But, I'm not, well-versed in Texas law, so, he gets 2 to 4 years, he gets 20 years. I think, the justice system did what it needs to do, and it's stepping up and showing that players need to be held accountable for their actions.
Michael, we're going to pass this right over to you.
Well, I mean, obviously it's a tragedy. I mean, you feel bad for not only the family of Josh Britton, but the other party as well, and everybody involved, the entire Dallas Cowboys organization. It still hurts to this day. But, I mean, let the guy do his time, whether it be 10 years, 20 years, whether it be, the probation. Obviously, he feels really bad about this whole thing. It depends. Vince Neil, lead singer from Motley Crue, did 30 days. He killed a guy. He was drunk. So, it varies, but at the same time, I still feel bad for the guy, and the whole thing could have been avoided had he just called a taxi, and it really is a travesty.
Actually, one of the finer notes from this thing is the fact that the deceased, Jerry Brown, his mother, has said she's forgiven Josh Brent. And actually, that's another thing to point out is the fact that Brent and Brown were very good friends from everything that's reported. They weren't just teammates; they were friends. That's why they were hanging out. But that's going to be some testimony to see is the fact that Brown's mother is supposed to speak in front of the court, and she's actually let go of the incident as far as Josh Brent's concerned. She's forgiven him, and that's big. I think that's powerful stuff. I mean, you don't often see that. Generally, the family of the victims in these situations are like, cut the throat of the accused. So
with his head, yeah.
This is one of those.
That could be big for Brent too if the mother comes up and speaks in defense of Brent like she's saying she is, then that could be big in pushing the sentence down for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I mean, it's a hard situation to gauge and to say. I mean, obviously, you can't necessarily. Part of you wants to feel bad for Brent because he lost his friend, and he seems remorseful. But at the same time, kids, don't drink and drive. So let's move on to The
We
next
at
topic.
SK do not endorse drunk driving.
No, we do not at all. The next topic is another big one, and that's Masahiro Tanaka signing with the Yankees. He's, the 25-year-old ace out of Japan. And actually, the most astounding thing to me is, and I'm not a huge baseball guy, is 24-0 with an ERA of 1.27.
That's crazy.
Like, are you kidding me? I mean, I understand it wasn't the bigs, it's not the major league, but this deal is worth $155 million. And of course, the Yankees, money, are spending. And they don't even care about it. I mean, and part of that could probably be the fact that they're not going to have to pay A-Rod this year, I would assume. But I feel like the Yankees were going to be aggressive anyways. And a quick note before I pass this to you guys is that contract for Tanaka is the 5th most for a pitcher in MLB history. And that's right in the ballpark of like Zach Greinke and CC Sabathia. So let's talk about this, but one of the things I want to get to is, and we'll go to you first, Michael. How big of a move, first of all, is this for the New York Yankees? And secondly, where do you think Tanaka's going to fit in that rotation? Is he going to be their number one, or is it still like a Sabathia?
Well, I mean, obviously this is a big move for New York. They get their number 2, possibly even a number 3. They obviously re-signed Hiroki Kuroda in the offseason. That he could be a 2 or 3. CC is obviously still their number 1. I mean, you get paid $161 million in your contract. You're going to be the number 1. He's slimmed down a lot. He's reports at Yankees camp say that he's the healthiest he's ever been. But Tanaka is also going to be there to take the pressure off of CC. Let's say, CC has a bad couple of games, ends up doesn't doing that well this year. Tanaka moves into that 1. When this whole thing broke, everybody expected really that he was going to the Yankees. It was just for how much. I thought it was kind of a little odd that he was, he put up Clayton Kershaw numbers, and he's almost getting Clayton Kershaw money without throwing a pitch in Major League Baseball. But former Yankee, former Brave, guy near and dear to my heart, Andrew Jones came out, was on the same team with this guy in 2013, said this guy was a great teammate, really fun to be around, and he is the real deal. So if Andrew Jones vouches for him, let's see what happens. I'm anxious to see what he can do.
Same thing to you, Joe. Was this an unexpected move for you personally? I mean, and where do you think that Tanaka's going to fit in the Yankees' rotation?
I don't think it was terribly unexpected to see the Yankees pay out the most money for an international free agent. That's what I was reading, is that's one of the big things in baseball this year is that they changed the posting system for international players so that it's more money in the individual contracts and less in the posting system that they would pay to Tanaka's team back in Japan. I think
that's $20 million is what they have.
$20 million, yeah. Which compare that to Yu Darvish, who signed with Texas a couple of years back, and they paid like 50-something to his team. Yeah, like Mike said, I think Tanaka's probably going to be, a middle rotation guy behind Sabathia and Kuroda. Ivan Nova, I'm looking at this. He had probably his best year as a Yankee last season. They've got a couple other guys that they're working in there. David Phelps, I think, was another starter for them. Michael Pineda had a shoulder injury. They traded one of their top prospects to get him from Seattle, I remember. So he's a prospect maybe more down the line. But the Yankees are definitely putting together some solid pitching prospects. And, they're throwing the money around. They really, they want to win. Because, Derek Jeter's the guy there. Who knows how much longer he's got.
Well, the good thing with Tanaka, I think, is the fact that he's only 25 years old. So even if
exactly, his dad's going to be there 10 years.
Even if he ends up the second or the third guy in the rotation or further down, eventually, I think the Yankees are going to, they're working him to be their superstar, their horse of the. And that's the other thing is, his pitch counts are crazy. Like he's like Justin Verlander type pitch counts, and that's just astonishing to see. And it doesn't seem like it's wearing on him. But that could be the thing long term, Joe. We were just talking about, in 10 years, what's that going to do to his arm? We'll go to you, Michael, first. Like, do you think these pitch counts are going to be a big concern moving into the major leagues and for the New York Yankees?
They certainly don't think so. I mean, when Daisuke came into the automatically first thing I thought of when he came over is, okay, he's going to be the New York Yankees version of Daisuke. He doesn't have as many pitches as Daisuke did, so he doesn't really have to worry about that. They say he's got an unbelievable splitter that is going to fool a ton of hitters here. He's got an opt-out clause after 4 years, so if they see that His arm is starting to deteriorate a little bit after the 4 years. They don't have to worry about the other 3. That could be a big thing for him. I don't think they're worried about it, to be quite honest. What worries me more is the fact that the Yankees said that they were going to try to spend $149 million all year, and they have spent, are you sitting down, guys, $500 million in payroll this year. I've never even seen $1 million. It's ridiculous.
Well, that shouldn't shock us at this point. I almost feel like...
It really shouldn't, but
I'm numb to
it kind
that.
of does.
No.
It's like if Richard Sherman blows up the mic next week, or, I'm not going to be surprised anymore. I'm not. If Miley Cyrus is twerking somewhere, that does not shock me at this point. So, Joe, we're going to go to the same thing with you as far as his pitch count. I mean, I know he's young, but does that pitch count concern you, and how do you think that the Yankees will approach this?
Man, now I'm going to be waiting for Richard Sherman at the Super Bowl to sit down and start reading a poem or something after the game. But, back on topic here. He has thrown a lot. I was just reading about in Japan's version of the World Series, Tanaka pitched, over 150 times, something like that, in Game 6, and then came back to close out the 9th inning of Game 7. So this is a guy who's, he's been run a lot over 7 years in Japan. He comes over to the Yankees. I don't know how much they're going to need to work him. If they're putting him middle of the rotation, I think he'll be okay.
All right, so our next topic, since we're moving right along here smoothly, is going to be Michael's boy. He mentioned him last week at the end of our basketball show, and that is Javaris Crittenton. And it kind of makes me laugh a little. Not that I'm cold-hearted, but this guy, man, is like, he's still facing that murder rap, and now he's apparently Scarface. At Thorne in Montana, 400 kilos of cocaine. And it wasn't even just that. It's like 10 pounds of weed and then some firearms, too. And he's apparently some drug, gun, kingpin type of a guy. And I want to just say for the viewers out there in the United States of America who don't realize how much 400 kilos is, that's roughly 880 pounds. 880 pounds of cocaine. I saw a thing with Mike Lohan, Lindsay Lohan's dad, the notorious drug user, and I think he actually has a drug clinic now because he's clean. He said the most cocaine he ever did was an 8-ball in a weekend, and that is like microscopic compared to 800 and some odd pounds of cocaine. So this guy was the 19th overall pick back in 2007, although his career has done about as well in the NBA as the number 1 overall pick from that year, Greg Oden. Yeah, shots fired. From Georgia Tech, Forrest Crittenton, what do we think, Michael? We'll roll right into you first because you had something to say about this last week at the end of the show when you saw it come on your news ticker. What's this? What's this guy's deal?
Apparently he's trying to show Brian De Palma, hey, I can be Scarface too. So Brian De Palma, if you're ever watching, maybe this gets back to you somehow, write a sequel. This guy would be perfect. I really don't know what the whole thing. As soon as I found out, this was immediate news to me. Like you said, first-round pick out of Georgia Tech, gets to L.A., joins a chapter of the. I don't want to mix this up because I don't want anybody out west, killing me over this. He joined a chapter of the Crips out there. Yeah, it was the Crips. And decides that he's going to live that life. Shoots he, of course, tragically shot this woman who, 4 kids, wrong place at the wrong time. Apparently the guy he was trying to shoot was a blood member that robbed his house, quote unquote, and then proceeded to become a major drug lord. And not only is it 10 pounds of weed, that's 10 pounds of weed that he was moving. Apparently the entire ring was moving close to, they say, 100, 150 pounds now. But I don't know what this guy's deal is. This could be the poster boy for maybe they start using psychological tests in the NBA now, if they don't already. This is just a guy who got wrapped up in the life too much, and now he's paying for it.
He's about that life, and maybe he should have taken his weed, his weed business, and moved to Colorado or Washington and legalized it, and then he could have sold as much as he wanted. Joe, maybe the Nuggets need
another forward. I hear Danilo Gallinari is not playing this year, so
yeah.
Hey, Javaris.
He's done.
No, that was a drop the ball type moment there for Gallo. Get well soon, Joe. What's your stance on this Crittenden thing?
So, I don't know as much as Mike does about this. However,
Mike seems overly informed on this subject.
Oh, Mike tried to
Tavares
hit it with their
Crittenden's number
YB,
one
so
fanboy over there.
All right, Joe, go ahead, finish up.
Number one fan, Tavares. I love you, man.
Now, I don't know how many Breaking Bad fans we have out there. I haven't seen the final 8 episodes yet, but I'm going to guess that the final 8 probably play out about like what Tavares Crittenden's going through right now. Dude, 800 pounds of cocaine. Dude's gone for life.
Yeah, it's just the weird thing about the whole situation is did you really see this coming? I mean, first round pick out of Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is arguably one of the it's one of the best engineering schools to go to on the eastern seaboard. I'm not sure if he was an engineering major at all. But really, you get a first class education at Georgia Tech, and then all of a sudden, poof, you become a drug lord in the NBA. And now let's not forget, this is the same Javaris Crittenden that had that run-in with Gilbert Arenas, Agent Zero, El Hibachi, whichever one you want to call him. They pull a gun out on each other, automatic red flag. Washington does the right thing and dumps him. Then he tries to go to Charlotte. Charlotte sees that he's not the type of player that he needs to be, dumps him. So, it's kind of not really a surprise to me. I would have thought that once he got traded from L.A. with Marc Gasol, Kwame Brown, and Aaron McKee and a couple first-round picks to Memphis, I would have thought that the thing would have blown over, but apparently not.
Memphis ain't a joke either, though. I mean, there's
well, yeah, that's true.
That city's kind of wild as well. So
I got hustle and flow director's cut. I know how bad Memphis is.
we kind of skipped around here. I threw you guys a curveball. Michael was asking for a curveball before the show. That third topic was supposed to be the LeBron James, Kevin Durant sort of thing. And this one's interesting, too. LeBron James recently said that he gets Kevin Durant stat updates to his cell phone. So he is now, taking this wonderful device, and he is stalking Kevin Durant's life. And that thing must be blowing up lately. Kevin Durant is averaging over 36 points per game. That was actually heading into last night's game in
where he dropped
against San Antonio,
36.
where he dropped another 36.
Night.
So this guy is off the planet right now, going nuts, going ham. And LeBron seems a little bit jealous. I mean, that was a report from the week before where LeBron said he sees these stat lines and he gets a little jealous. Because let's face it, he did used to be the man in Cleveland like that. He's still the man in Miami, but he has other mouths to feed, so to speak, with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Is this crazy, or does this kind of strike you as normal? Do you think a lot of other NBA stars get direct updates from their rival players to their cell phone? You think this is normal, or do you think LeBron's losing his mind a little bit? We'll go to you first, Michael.
Well, personally, I don't think this is. I mean, I don't think this is normal, but I could be wrong. I mean, maybe KD and LeBron James go to an Applebee's or something and hang out at the bar or whatever. But I don't know. I think LeBron's a little jealous. I think and this all really started ever since Russell Westbrook went down. Kevin Durant has just picked this team up, put it on his back, and said, "I'm taking you through this." And right now, to me, if the season ended right now, Kevin Durant is my MVP. I think LeBron James senses that. I think LeBron is trying to get I think he's trying to throw some of us off here a little bit. I think he's worried about it, but I think he's trying to play it like he's not worried about it. I really think he's worried about this.
So, Joe, how do you feel about this? Do you think that, and actually Michael brought up a good point, do you think that this is normal in the NBA? Do you think, no cause for concern because other players probably check on this all the time? And do you think that, LeBron's nervous that he won't? I don't think it's so much of not winning the MVP because I feel like LeBron should probably, feel and sense in his mind that the NBA voters do like to switch that up and change the pace a little bit. So he probably wasn't going to win another one again this season anyways if anybody else played really well.
Yeah.
But do you think LeBron's starting to sense, to play off Michael's a little bit, do you think LeBron's starting to sense that maybe people are starting to believe he's not the best player in the league anymore, but rather the second best?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's really unusual to that we're at the point where we're expecting a guy to drop 35, 40 points. Just so happens that guy's one of the best scorers in the league, and Kevin Durant. It was kind of my stance last week, and I'll say it again. LeBron's got a lot of mouths to feed in Miami. He knew what he was getting into when he went there. Over his last 5, though, even LeBron, I wrote this down, he's still averaging 30 points, 7 rebounds, and 6.5 assists a game. I mean, it's not like the dude has any, stat line. He does have a stat line that a lot of people would still be jealous of.
I think the thing with LeBron and Durant, we talked about this a little bit last night on Court Vision with War Room Sports, warroomsports.com. Check them out. They have a great YouTube channel as well. We talked about the fact that Durant has that killer instinct now all of a sudden, and it looks like he's just like Kobe Bryant kind of a few years ago. He would just like to just like rip the veins out of your body. He doesn't care, like he's stone cold. LeBron doesn't ever really seem to play that way, which is the scary part because LeBron seems like he does what he does so effortlessly. Like he just tears the league apart without even actually trying. I almost feel like if LeBron ever just got into this KD mode, because KD's mad now. He's kind of been close a couple times, and he was saying earlier this season that like he's tired of being second best. And now he's just displayed this, this animal instinct. And if LeBron James did that, how like frightening could this be, Michael?
Oh, God, if LeBron James ever found any sort of killer instinct, I think the NBA would be in trouble. I think everybody would – he'd probably rip the league to shreds to the point where there probably would be no more NBA, to the point where there probably wouldn't even be any point watching the games. It would be that bad. It'd be kind of like watching Alabama play, I don't know, Mississippi Valley State in one of those, like, first season games. It'd just be pointless, which, I don't ever think it'll really come to that because you've got guys like Kevin Durant. You've got guys like maybe, and I know you're going to hate me for this, Andy, but maybe Rudy Gay out in Sacramento. But
I'm done bashing Rudy Gay right now. He's been over 50% this month, and like he's turned it around since he went to Sacramento.
And, maybe a Blake Griffin, guys like that who are stars of their team, the rising stars of this league. I don't think we'll ever see that. You'll see guys like that, but I don't think we'll ever see LeBron do that. But, maybe LeBron will prove me wrong.
Joe.
Yeah, here we go. Because I think the thing I want to say on this is that generational athletes in every sport, you'll always see them get to a point where they start to get to that prime age of 27, 28, and they're so mature about the way they play the game. They know what they have to do, and they make it look effortless. And I think that's more what we're seeing from LeBron, because he's still putting up insane stat lines. But you watch him play, and it's just like, he's going out there, he's passing the ball, maybe he shoots every now and then. Like, he's just doing it so easily. And, people say, when LeBron gets his killer instinct, he's going to take over the NBA. The killer instinct comes in the playoffs for him. Let's not be mistaken that, because that's the only month or two that the Miami Heat really care about at this point.
Yeah, and I think the thing for me with LeBron is he was that guy in Cleveland.
Yeah, because he had to be.
Yeah, he's not the polished scorer Durant is, and he never was, and he might not ever
will be
that kind of a polished scorer, but he's just so physically gifted. And when he was in Cleveland, he did that, but he sacrificed being that guy to win championships, and it's worked. Now, the one question I have, and we'll close this portion out, is what do you guys feel like the realistic? Give me like a percentage of what do you think the realisticness of LeBron perhaps saying, I was the man, I miss being the man, I've went to Miami, I've won 2 rings, now I'm going to take my talent somewhere else to be the man again. Let's go to you first, Joe. Like, try to give me, what do you think? Give me a percentage, 50%, 75%, 20%. Like, what do you think the possibility of LeBron saying, hey, I've accomplished this championship thing, even if I never win another one, my legacy is sealed at 2, and I'm going to go somewhere and just score 35 a game?
I think the odds of LeBron leaving, stick with me here, I think the odds of him leaving Miami might be better if they win a title this year.
I can agree with that.
I would say, honestly, it's probably pretty close to, I would say 40% for if he leaves Miami.
40%. Okay, so Michael, what do you think the odds are that LeBron could say, hey, I've done what I've came to do, and now I'm going somewhere else?
I'm going to go just a little bit lower than Joe. I see what Joe's saying, and it's a valid point. 35%, and here's why. Even if they don't win another title this year, they know LeBron is going to be a free agent. They honestly have to get him signed first. He is he's arguably the marquee reason why people want to come to Miami. People want to play with LeBron. Can Cleveland afford the money that Miami will throw at him to stay in Miami? He's got a family. He's got kids. They're probably in high school. He probably doesn't want to uproot them and move them to Cleveland or, wherever. If they're in a good school system right now, 35%, maybe even lower, depending on how much Miami wants to throw out.
I'm going to go with like 20%. And a lot of it, I think, is going to be, it's going to hang on what they do with Wade, what Wade's situation is. Because at this point, I feel like that removed meniscus back in, it's been over 10 years for Wade, but I feel like that's caught up completely. Like he's almost to the fact where he's no more than like a good role. He reminds me of like a good star who was never hurt but is like 38 years old now. Like occasionally he throws down like 25 points and then he misses 4 games. But yeah, I'm gonna say like 20%, 18 to 20%, something like that. I just feel like South Beach is such a good location. And to go back to Cleveland, I mean, that's like moving to Kazakhstan or something. So I know he's from there, but
Shout out to Kazakhstan.
that's like marrying a supermodel, and then after 10 years you decide that you're going to go back to she might be cute, but the normal girl you used to date in high school or something. So I just feel like it's a downgrade if he moves back to the city of Cleveland, because South Beach is just that great. So our last topic of the night.
I think you just described every single 80s movie plot line right there.
So our last topic of the night, and this is one you boys are going to love especially, is a little bit of hockey, guys. And we're going to talk. We're going to talk, obviously, one of the biggest topics in hockey over the, probably of the season, actually, although I don't watch a ton of hockey. But this is the Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames. Oh, Canada. And they decided to have a little bit of a brawl.
True
it's actually
Patriot love.
For me, not being a hockey fan, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. There was like 4 fights going on at once. You guys know more about this than me. I'm only simply reading off this paper what I wrote down earlier. It seems to me that the Flames sent out some goons, and then the Canucks responded by evening the keel. And I mean, there was never a plan to play hockey, I don't think, right off the gun there. It was just like, let's fight. And yeah, four fights at once, and it was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen as far as hockey goes.
Yeah.
Joe.
I'm going to have to restrain myself because of some certain actions that happened in the preseason with a certain Buffalo hockey team. However, putting your 4th liners out to start a game does not make any sense. The only logical time that I've ever seen that happen is if you're going up against, Sidney Crosby, one of the best players in the league, and you want to put out a defensive line against him. Brian McGradden, the guy who started the fight, is typically not a centerman, as far as I can recall. And they put him in the face-off because they wanted him at the start of the play, and that was going to happen.
So in your professional opinion, was this lineup put on the ice for purposes of getting in a fight?
I would have to assume so, yes. And that's why I believe John Tortorella was justified in putting out his 4th liners, protecting his superstars. But what he did after the first period, which is why he got the suspension, was because he was going down in the Flames locker room, going yelling at them. That is, no, you don't do that.
And he's been suspended 15 days as a result. Hartley, the coach for the Flames, got a $25,000 fine. Michael, what do you think about this little debacle of greatness? I'm like giddy with this thing. If I'm going to watch hockey,
debacle of greatness. That's fantastic.
That's an oxymoron.
That is an oxymoron, but see, for me, I've been to, and I was telling you guys before the show, I've been to a handful of hockey games, and I've never seen a fight. And I'm always like leaving pissed off because I wanted to, go to a fight to see a hockey game break out, and it just didn't happen.
It's always better in person, that's for sure, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Michael, go ahead. Let's hear your analysis on this.
Okay, I'm going to have to agree with Joe to a certain extent. I agree with you that the 4th liners were out there, Torts sent them out there to maybe keep the peace a little bit. But, if Bob Hartley's going to send out your 4th line, when you're going to start the Sedins, who are arguably, even though they're 35, 36 years old, they're still 2 of the fastest players in the league. Hartley was trying to do the Crosby defense, put out your 4th liners against Crosby, you build a defense. This is why I don't like John Tortorella, because Tortorella took things the wrong way. If you honestly think, Tortorella, that I'm sending let's say I'm Bob Hartley, I'm going to send my fourth line guys out there because I want to fight the Sedins. No, the Sedins probably could have handled themselves, but no, you put them out there to put the defense. Instead of sending out your goons, instead of sending out Tom Cicito, guys like that, put out your checking line. Put out Sean Mathias. Put out
Sean Mathias.
No, not Sean Mathias. No, David Booth, wrong Florida player, went to the wrong place.
There you go.
Put out, God, who else is on that line? Anyway, put out your checking line. Michael Samson left too. And then you go down the tunnel to try to fight Bob Hartley. That's Bush League, John Tortorella. Bush League. Now, I know that it happened, Joe, with your Buffalo Sabres. You saw John Mitchell do that against Phil Castle. That, I can see why, you'd be a little skeptical with that. But Tortorella's done this before. Tortorella has put out his fourth line in New Jersey against Peter DeBoer and got pissed off at Peter DeBoer when Peter DeBoer did it back to him.
So,
I don't
the same question to you, Michael. The same question to you that I asked Joe. Do you think that Hartley did that with the intent? The Flames come out with the intent to start a fight.
No, and I only think that the fight happened because Tortorella put his fourth line out. He went into his dressing room 20 minutes before when he got the lineup and said, "Watch out, guys, we're playing a bunch of idiots." That started it.
But that's almost like me saying, the only reason I backed into your car is because you parked it in front of my driveway. I mean, they were kind of gold into to doing it, if that's what you're saying with Tortorella bringing his goons out there. I mean, he kind of seems like he was lured into that a little bit.
In a way he was, but he didn't have to do it. All he would have had to do was put the third line guys out there. There probably wouldn't have been a fight. McGrattan was actually playing the wing, Joe. It was Kevin Westgarth that was in the middle, acquired from the on Hurricanes for forward Greg Nemish, former first-round pick that did not work out.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's let Joe interject on this because you guys share different views. Joe thought it was with the intent to fight. Michael, you thought it wasn't. So let's hear Joe's rebuttal on this.
I only have one thing left to say on this, and it's because a lot of people that don't watch a lot more hockey say, "Oh, fighting, how can we take sports seriously when there's fighting like that?" Fighting is a part of hockey. You talk about the code, enforcing the game. It is a part of it. It's a historical, it's been around as long as the game has.
And to Joe's point right there, real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt, but let me just say, because I'll forget this if I don't say it now, let me say that as a guy who doesn't really watch a lot of hockey, I was surprised to see, and I think fighting is part of the game. There was the last because there was 4 different fights going on. It looked like they had gotten 3 of them cleaned up, and then the one that was further out towards the center of the ice was the last one. And no, I don't know the names of the 2 players, but they stopped fighting on their own. They just went from hitting each other, to like looking at each other, and then they both just skated off together. And I was like, yo, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I've never been in a situation where 2 guys were just fighting, and then basically we're like, oh, okay, we're done. Yeah. To me, that screams.
Guys know when a message is sent.
Yeah, that screams this was part of the game, and this wasn't an actual fist fight. Because people who actually fist fight don't generally just stop and be like, okay, hey, good game, and leave.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
All right, so final thought on this, Michael. Do you have a final thought, a quick final thought?
I'm with you. You're never going to be able to take fighting out of the game. It is a part of the code. I mean, granted, there are times when it does get out of hand. Think back, Sean, a couple, earlier this month, maybe late last month, got suspended for basically taking out Brooks Orpik. You think back probably maybe has it been almost 15 years since the Brian May incident, Joe? Todd Bertuzzi, Brian May, when it almost seemed like Brian May was jumped from behind by Todd Bertuzzi. It subsequently ended Brian May's career.
Yeah, in Colorado.
Which was a shame. I used to watch him in Hershey all the time.
2002, 2003, so probably 12 years, right about,
Yeah, 12 years ago. There are instances when it does get out of hand. But for the most part, the referees do a great job of controlling this thing, especially last night in Pittsburgh when it seemed like Peter Budaj and Marc-Andre Fleury were getting ready to go after it, which I was really really excited to see because I love a good old-fashioned Donnybrook. I grew up watching the stuff, watching the old stuff. My dad's a huge Broad Street Bullies fan, so he had tapes of the '70s Flyers. So guys like Dave Schultz, Mitch Timtuki, guys like that, they were like a part of my growing up. So I would always, watch the fighting and everything. If it ever gets taken out of the game, I don't know if I'll be able to even like the game anymore. I mean, it's that much a part of it. It's like when Roger Goodell wants to take the extra point out of football. You can't.
I used to play Blades of Steel on Nintendo for the sole purpose of fighting. For the sole purpose of starting fights. Okay, so we're going to wrap this hockey one up. And this is about the end of our show, but real quick, I know Micah was kind of requesting that I throw him a little curveball like I did last night in the football show. And I've got one. I found a curveball to throw you guys real quick. And that is Josh McDaniels is reportedly back in the mix for the Browns head coaching job. What is wrong with the Cleveland Browns? Like, what is physically wrong with that team that nobody seems to want to coach it? I feel like,
why would you?
They have 10 draft picks this year, 7 of which were in the 4th round or earlier. So between the 1st and 4th round, they have 7 picks. Okay, they unloaded Trent Richardson. And Josh Gordon has been a blessing. Now, they don't really have a QB, but they can probably get one in this draft. The defense isn't half bad. What is the deal with this Browns head coaching job? And, Michael, real quick, I'm going to send it to you first. What's the deal here in Cleveland?
God, how do you do real quick when you're talking about the Cleveland Browns? We could spend a whole show on this.
That's the point of this.
Okay, right quick, you fire Rob Chudzinski. I don't know why. When you're allegedly trying to go after Johnny Manziel, he would have fit well. Chudzinski helped Cam Newton. He could help Manziel. You're going to trade up, fine, great, whatever. They got the guy from Buffalo. Joe, forgive me, I'm not big into Buffalo sports, so I'm not aware.
Yeah, he's having a 3rd interview there today.
Yeah, okay, so there's a chance, he worked with E.J. Manuel. You get that same guy into it. Why not? I mean, why not go to Cleveland? I mean, could it be somebody's scared of getting fired after 1 year like Chudzinski was? And I don't know what's
Cleveland.
going on. I don't know what's going on in that front end, but
yeah,
I can see why a lot of people are worried.
That's the big reason that people are wary of this job is because of the office. They see them fire Rob Chudzinski after 1 year, and they say, "Holy crap! If I can't turn this team into something awesome, I'm going to be fired after 1 year too."
Yeah.
Now, if they did, wasn't built in a day.
If they did, if they don't give him more than 1 day, that's a whole different story.
True.
But if they do hire Mike Pettin, he's been a Rex Ryan protege for probably going back to when Rex was with Baltimore. He turned around Buffalo's defense pretty well for the most part in 1 year. And imagine what he could do with all the studs they have in Cleveland. They've got a great secondary. They've got, guys like Phil Taylor, Barkevius Mingo, they just drafted. Paul Kruger, yep. They've got a lot of tools there on defense. And if they did hire Mike Pettin, that would be a serious contender to Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and Baltimore in the AFC
If I'm not mistaken, isn't Buffalo's offense coordinator also in the mix as well? I think I've heard that name.
Could be.
I think I've heard him being thrown out.
Nathaniel Hackett. He's a real young guy though. He might even be younger than McDaniels. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, he might be.
He could be looking for a new job.
Like Cleveland was, one of the first ones to get rid of their coach, and now they're one of the last ones filling the spot. I didn't understand that either. But maybe it is because guys.
It's all about how appealing the job is.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to. Nobody really wants to live in Cleveland first and foremost, anyways. But you can make a case that the front office is terrible. I think that's been the biggest problem, and nobody does want to get fired after one season or even halfway into the season. That's going to be it for the show today. I want to thank my co-hosts here, Michael and Joe. And I want to urge everybody to go check out www.sports-kings.com. I don't know where my thing went. I'm searching for it, and I can't find it. Anyways, head on over there.
Somewhere on the bottom there.
You can check. It's not popping up on my screen anymore. You guys can check out all the work we do over there. We write lots of articles, videos. We have fun, interactive stuff. You can find us on Facebook if you just go to your search bar at the top and you type in Sports-Kings. We have a like page. Go ahead and click that like button. We interact with everybody. We post lots of things, memes, etc. And come to here at our YouTube page. Subscribe to us. Leave some comments. We'll interact with you guys on here. I'm always checking the page. I'm sure these guys do. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the flip side.